Hello everyone. As you know, my name is Mark Fennell, and this is going to be the second video in the series on the new structure of the atom. Still wearing my atom t-shirt. Atom makes up everything. So because they make up everything, it's important to know what the atom looks like. In this video, we're going to talk about one of the mysteries that puzzled scientists for over a century: the stable orbits. Bohr was a genius. He came up with the idea that electrons can exist only in certain orbits. Then when photons are absorbed, they go to a higher orbit, buzz around for a while, emit a photon, come back down. But there's nothing in between. These orbit levels are only here and here. Later was find out there's other aspects to orbits, including the elliptical shape, the angle, other things. But we're going to focus on what they call the principal quantum number. Orbit exists at this distance, and nothing in between. This was a brilliant idea. It was a brilliant insight, and it's turned out to be very much true. But why is that? Nobody knew. Why here and here, nothing in between? Nobody knew. Nobody could figure this out. Nobody. But I did. 2 years ago, I came up with a solution for why electrons can only exist here and nothing in between. The answer is quite simple, but we have to go back to another discovery I made, and that is the physical nature of gravity. I discovered what gravity actually is. Gravity is a very physical energy, which I call energy strings, gravity strings. These gravity strings exist from the mass and extend outward into space. I have written a detailed book on this, Introduction to Gravity Strings. I've given several presentations on it, and I have several videos. So I encourage you to watch the videos, read the articles, and particularly buy the book. Okay? Yes, the book is thick, but there's a reason for that. It's because if I'm coming up with the solution to gravity that no one else has done, let's explain it in full and show you how it solves everything. So that's why it's thick. So it has all the answers. But the concept of gravity strings is very simple. Now, given that, let's talk about how it applies to the Bohr orbits. Gravity strings only exist in certain lengths. Gravity strings grow, and they grow because they merge. The way I like to describe it is freeway. You have 3 lanes on a freeway. Then the lanes merge together. Perhaps there's a construction, and now that is when they merge lanes together. So instead of having 3 equal lanes of traffic, you have 1 long lane, which is essentially 3 times as long. Right? And then those strings merge together. And then those strings merge together. And this is how strings grow in length. This is how they become from the tiniest ones, which hold the tiniest particles together, to Earth connecting to the moon, the sun connecting to the planets, galaxy clusters coming together, because of the way these strings grow in length. Now let's take a look at that growing in length for a minute. Remember, we had the way things they grow is by merging. So what that means is they'll grow in increments. Gravity strings will grow in increments. What's another word for increment? Quantum. Okay? Gravity strings grow in increments. Gravity strings grow in quantum. Okay? Certain lengths, additional lengths, additional length, additional length. Just because of the merging. There's no value in between. It's here and here and here and here. So that explains that. And that quantum orbits exist not just for the atom, but for everything in the universe. Everything in space comes at these merged distances. So if we can actually see these gravity strings throughout space, extending from the Earth, we would see that the lengths would always occur in increments. Now, they're not always the same increments. It's not like always 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. They can vary because of the way that they merge. But the point is, they will only grow in increments and nothing between. So we will find that. We will find that. We will discover that. We will be able to measure that and learn that. Scientists will be able to detect that in the future. Okay? Extends through the atom, but through all of space. So there we have it. The electrons can only exist in certain orbits because the gravity string lengths are only certain lengths. It's this length, this length, this length, this length. And the electrons will therefore orbit only at this length, this length, this length, and this length. Okay? So the quantum number, the distance, is always because that's where the length of the next gravity string ends. That's as high as it goes. And again, we will see that it extends not just through the atom, but through everything in space and everything through the universe. Now let's talk about the fact of an electron orbit for a moment. What is an orbit? All right, scientists have known this for years. Newton did calculations very well. Basically what it means is you have the internal energy of this smaller object balancing the gravitational energy between the small object and the larger object. Excuse me, I got it reversed. The larger object, the smaller object. The smaller object has its internal energy, and when that energy is perfectly balanced with the gravitational energy between the two, then it'll be in a constant motion. As Newton famously said, it's both moving forward and falling at the same time, but just in equal amounts. That's an orbit. Balanced is the key. Balance. Okay? So where is the gravity? Gravity does not extend it formally all the way up. The gravity string ends here, and then ends here. So the balance, internal energy, will balance the gravity at this level. The next consideration will be to balance the gravity at this level. There's nothing to balance between here and here. There's nothing to balance. It doesn't do any balancing because there's nothing to balance. The gravity strings don't grab on to the electron until the very tip, which is up here. Okay? So again, this is the basic concept of why electrons will orbit a nucleus only at certain distances. Gravity exists in gravity strings. Gravity strings grow by merging. Because they merge, they grow in increments. Increments is another word for quantum. So anything that orbits is going to be this level, this level, this level, and this level. And an orbit exists when the smaller object, such as an electron, is equal to the gravitational energy of the larger object, like a nucleus. And again, that only occurs where the edges of the gravity strings are. This level, this level, this level. So there you go. The 100-year mystery 100-year mystery of why the electron will exist only at certain orbits to be stable, and nothing in between, can now be explained very easily. There you go.